Okay, we're going to jump just right into it, okay? And this video is going to be about anxious attachment style, okay? Now, this video will be in two parts. So this first video I'm going to do is going to be actually breaking down what is it, or what is the traits, how do you identify with this, or how do you know if you have this anxious preoccupied attachment style, okay? So this first video is going to be solely about breaking it down and what it comes from. What is the root of it? How do we get it? How do we take it into our friendships, our romantic relationships, every aspect? And then the second video I'm going to do behind this one will be what do we need to do to heal? What do we need to do to come out of that anxious, preoccupied attachment style and begin to come to self-confidence to have a secure attachment style, okay? So let's just jump right into it. A lot of times with the anxious, preoccupied attachment styles, what happens is the root of it comes from childhood, okay? So what happens is that you may have been given everything, meaning you may have been given a roof over your head, you may have been given clothes on your back, you may have had a meal every night, you never went hungry, all of that stuff. So you may have had the physical, material things that you needed, okay? But what happens is that a lot of the times the reason why a lot of us do have this anxious, preoccupied attachment styles because when we are young as a little baby, what happens is our emotional needs are not fulfilled. Okay? So when our parents from birth do not give us what we need emotionally, and they're not able to give us that emotional connection that we need to have a healthy relationship with them, whether it's both parents or single parents, it doesn't matter. But that comes from when we're first born. That comes from our childhood, when we're given everything physically, but we're not given the emotional connection. And so what happens is that when our parents didn't give us the emotional connection from childhood, it's like emotionally we're starving for that emotional connection, okay? And so what happens is that as we're children and we're steady yearning for our parents to give us that emotional connection, and they still don't give it to us, what happens is that it's like we become desperate for having that emotional connection. We become desperate and we start holding on and clinging on to everything. Why? Because emotionally we have been deprived of having our emotional needs met from childhood. Okay, so when you're a little girl, little boy, and you are deprived, or sometimes your parents just didn't know how to give you that emotional connection, that emotional love, that emotional security that you needed. It's sometimes our parents just didn't know how to give it to us because their parents didn't give it to them. So I don't want to start this video off in making everybody feel as though we have to point the finger at our parents, because we don't. We have to understand that whatever our parents gave to us, they did the best they could because it was what their parents gave to them. So if you had a mother or a father or both parents where their parents didn't give them their emotional needs, or they didn't, or their parents didn't connect with them on an emotional level and give them that emotional security that they needed when they was a kid or a child, then of course as parents and our parents having us, all they did was teach us what their parents taught them. Okay, so this is why we're learning about the attachment styles that we have now as adults, because when you can begin to know the root of why you have this attachment style, then you'll know what you have to do to break it so you can become better and become a better version of yourself. So back to the anxious preoccupied attachment style. So then what happens is that when we're little and we are deprived and we are starved of that emotional connection, that emotional bond, that emotional security that we desire and we yearn from our parents, what happens is that we take that into our adulthood. Okay, we take that into our romantic relationships to the point where A lot of times with anxious, preoccupied attachment styles and people that have these type of attachment styles, they are very clingy. They are very needy. Okay. And whenever they feel like somebody is not reciprocating a certain amount of affection that they want from their partner, romantic partner, what happens is that they'll begin to feel rejected. You know what I'm saying? It's like their anxiety will heighten because they want to feel secure with their partner. But a lot of times with people that have this anxious, preoccupied attachment style, they always want to know what their partner is doing. They always want to be up under their partner. They always are looking for everything to see if they can figure out if their partner is doing something wrong. Okay. And what happens is that if you look at the anxious, preoccupied attachment styles, that's nothing but another level, another form of anxiety, right? So a lot of times with people, men and women, because we all, not all, I'm not going to say all, but some of us do have this attachment style. And I am one where I did have a lot of traits of this attachment style. And that's why I can break it down, because from personal experience, I have had this attachment style. I'm not going to say that I don't still have traits, because I do. But I think that because I'm more aware of the root of it, and because I'm more aware of where it came from, and I'm more aware of how I take it into my adult relationships romantically, I try to be more mindful of those traits, and I try to do everything possible within internally to heal, so that I can have a secure attachment style, so that I can have the self-confidence, everything. Okay. So going back, so what happens is that when we have this anxious, preoccupied attachment style, a lot of times the way you know that you'll have it is you can be very clingy, very needy. And when you're in a romantic relationships, it's like you have to know every move that your partner is making. Okay. And another way is that you become really desperate for their attention. So if you're in a romantic relationship, men or women, and you're becoming really desperate and needy for your partner, your romantic partner's attention, whether you're dating somebody or whether you're in a relationship. But when you become desperate and needy for their attention, or you can be wanting to give your partner a certain amount of love and affection, and your partner does not want that type of affection at that moment. What happens with the anxious attachment person, they will feel like their partner just rejected them because they don't want a certain amount of affection at that precise moment. And so they also go through levels of insecurity. Okay. So a person that has this anxious, preoccupied attachment style, they deal with a lot of insecurities. And when it comes to their insecurities, it can become so bad where they will begin to imagine their partner doing things that their partner is not even doing. They will become so obsessed with their partner mentally, emotionally, and physically, where they won't be able to even focus on anything outside of their partner or that relationship. And they'll become so obsessed and possessive of their partner to the point where their partner won't even really be able to breathe outside of them. You know, they will, and this is another thing that an anxious, preoccupied attachment style, and a person that carry this attachment style, this is another thing that they do. They will guilt trip their partner when their partner does not want to do a certain thing the way they want them to do it. And if you look at it, when you have to guilt trip somebody or manipulate somebody or passive aggressively manipulate somebody into doing something you want them to do, that's what you call insecurities. Okay, that's a form of being insecure. That's a form of low self-esteem. Okay. And so that's also another trait of what a person with the anxious, preoccupied attachment style will do. And another trait that they have is that if their partner is away from them for a certain amount of time, it's like their anxiety will start to heighten. It's like their anxiety will get higher and higher and higher, and they'll start to like panic, you know. And really, I'm just being very honest, it can turn into a panic attack for a lot of people that have this type of attachment style. And they'll start to panic and they'll start to be like, oh my God, who is he with? Who is she with? What is she doing? And then what happens is they'll start texting their partner a lot. They'll start blowing their partner phone up. And or even if they're not blowing their partner phone up, they'll just sit still, and it's like they'll be stuck until their partner calls them, or until their partner texts them, or until their partner comes through the door. So it's like when you have this type of attachment style, when people suffer from this type of attachment style, it is very dysfunctional. I'm just being honest. This is a very dysfunctional attachment style to have. It is nothing, and some people may say, oh my God, it's cute. No, this is very dysfunctional, because the reason why it's dysfunctional is because when all you can do is obsess and possess and monitor your partner at all times, and when all you can do is focus and zoom in on a relationship and your partner, but you can't come outside of the box to see your goals and your purpose of what you have to do for yourself separately, then that's very dysfunctional. So a lot of times with this type of attachment style, it can also go to a level where it becomes violent. Okay? Because a lot of times with the anxious, preoccupied attachment style, and the person that has this type of attachment style, they normally attract men and women that is emotionally unavailable. It never fails. So when you have this type of attachment style, the women will normally, not 10 out of 10, will normally always attract men that's emotionally unavailable to them. A man that's not able to meet none of their emotional needs. Okay? And the men, 10 out of 10, will always attract women that is emotionally unavailable. A woman that's not able to meet none of his needs. Okay? And the reason why the anxious, preoccupied attachment person is always attracting the emotional unavailable man or woman is because it's like a washing machine that keeps going around and around and around, right? And the reason why the men and the women keep attracting these type of people, the emotional unavailable people, is because they're constantly looking, hoping, praying, thinking that if they do enough to please their partner, if they do enough to do everything right in the relationship, if they do enough to let their partner know that they're not leaving ever, no matter what they do, they're hoping and praying that their partner will meet their emotional needs. And the factor is that when you have an anxious attachment style person and you have an emotional unavailable person, those are two dysfunctional type of attachment style, and you have a dysfunctional relationship. Okay, I'll give you a prime example. If y'all just sit back, and people that's really honest with themselves, if you sit back and really observe all your relationships, really observe yourself, really reflect on yourself, and reflect on a lot of relationships or situations you got in. If you have always found yourself with an emotional unavailable man or woman, and if you sit back and pay attention to your attachment style, you'll see exactly how dysfunctional that can be for you as the person with the anxious attachment style, and how dysfunctional that can be for the person with the emotional unavailable attachment style. Okay? So when you begin to understand why you keep wanting, and a lot of times all it is that the anxious person is wanting that emotional unavailable person, because they think somewhere within the back of their mind, if I love them hard enough, if I give them everything they want, they gonna change and they're gonna meet all my emotional needs. But like I said in my trauma bond video, you can't change anyone. You can love a person till you blue in the face. You can love a person and give them your last penny. That does not mean that you're going to change the heart of that person. Only God can change the heart of people. Only God can change people. We cannot heal, nor can we change. We can be a source of encouragement, like I said in the other video, and we can be so loving, but you cannot change somebody that's not willing to change. And if you so happen to make this unavailable emotional person change, I promise you, they're going to resent you. Because here is why. If they're not willing and ready to change and you're forcing them, eventually the foundation is going to crumble right up under both of y'all. Because you're not willingly letting this person change on their own, but you're causing your insecurities. You're causing the guilt that you put on this person. You're causing the person to feel bad. You're causing this person to make them feel as though you need to. So when we deal with this anxious, preoccupied attachment style, and you know you have this, okay? And you're dealing with this emotional, unavailable person, it all is a root from your childhood. That's where it stems. It all stems from the root of your childhood because you were not able to have that secure emotional bond, that secure emotional connection with your parents from birth, from childhood. What happens is you take that into your romantic relationships. And as you get older, you learn how to manipulate, how to shame your partner, how to passive aggressively do things to try to make your partner jealous, thinking that that's going to allow your partner to meet your emotional needs, okay? And they still don't. So a lot of the times when we're dealing with this type of anxious, preoccupied attachment style, you have to understand that the only way you're going to get to the root of coming out of this dysfunction attachment style is when you can heal from your childhood. It's the root. That's all it is. It goes back to the root of when you were first born, when you didn't get your emotional needs met, when you would cry when you was a baby and you wanted to be held and cuddled and protected and felt secure, and your mother or your father didn't do that. It left you feeling emotionally like you weren't safe. So you take that into your relationships as adults, romantically with men and women, looking, and a lot of the times with the anxious person and then the person that's emotionally unavailable, the anxious person is like a big ass kid. And what happens is they will make the person that's emotionally unavailable, they will make that person feel as though, okay, you have to be this father figure for me, especially with women. I'm just being honest. As women, when we have this anxious, preoccupied attachment style, and then we're constantly getting in relationships or dating people that's emotionally unavailable, it can become very draining for the person that's emotionally unavailable, because when you have this anxious attachment style, it's like you turn into this kid with a temper tantrum that wants somebody to cater to you, cuddle you. And it's like you're demanding your partner to be a father to you, to give, to make you feel secure emotionally, to make you feel connected emotionally, to make you feel worthy, to make you feel like you are loved. And a lot of times when you have this anxious attachment style and you're looking for the person that's emotionally unavailable to make you feel loved and secure and whole and complete, it's not going to happen. And all you're doing is building a more stronger foundation of a dysfunctional relationship. So this is what it means when you have an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. How do I know this? I said earlier in the video, I've carried a lot of traits of this. A lot. And I brought it into my romantic relationships as I got older. So I know exactly how it looks, and I can see it from a mile away. And I can even see the traits in myself if they trigger and come up. So this is what we do when we carry this type of attachment style. And another thing that happens when you have this anxious attachment style is you will become so desperate to be loved by your partner. You will become so desperate and so needy. Okay. And you got to understand, when you have a needy energy like that, that doesn't draw people to you, that repels them. because nobody wants to feel like they have to be pressured into loving you. Nobody wants to feel like they have to be demanded to meet your emotional needs, okay? All you do is continue to push people away from you. That can mean friends, that can mean family, and that can mean romantic partners. So however it looks for you, take it how it resonates. But trust me when I say that when you have this anxious attachment style, you really want to do the internal work that you need to do to really heal. Because this is a very dysfunctional attachment style. And I'm not saying that to shame anybody, okay? I'm saying it because I genuinely want us as people to understand that we don't have to stay in this anxious or this level of anxiety. We don't have to keep looking for people to meet our emotional needs, but we can trust God to meet our emotional needs, and then we can feel secure within ourselves, okay? I want you to understand that if you have this anxious attachment style, I want you to understand that you don't have to look for a man to make you whole and complete, okay? But you have to look to God for that. So I'm going to do a part 2 of this as far as what we have to do to heal from it, okay? But just really take the time to reflect and really be honest with yourself, because when I make these videos, it's genuinely coming from a place of honesty, truthfulness, and just being real. So just really be truthful and transparent, and be authentic with yourself enough to really reflect and really ask yourself, do I have this attachment style? And do I keep attracting these dysfunctional relationships because I have not healed? And that's the question that I leave you with right here. Reflect and really pay attention. All right, I love you guys. I'll be back. Part 2.